Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it's Monday, and that means it's time for the Wrestling Inc. Monday Night Raw after show. And have we got a show for you? Adam Pearce and Nick Aldis, they get into it. The Miz feels like he's being overlooked, and Akira Tozawa gets one over on Bronson Reed. I'll explain later, but before we get into all of that, let me introduce you to the crew. I'm chatting with the Spar with LaBar champion, Justin LaBar, and the legendary referee, Jimmy Korderas. Jimmy, how are you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing well. Had a nice weekend and looking forward to chatting with you guys tonight about all the stuff going on.
Justin, I have a feeling we are going to butt heads tonight, but one thing we're not going to butt heads about is fantasy football, because I got to confess something to you. I got smoked this week. This was not a good week for Jack's Farmers. How you doing?
Another win.
I had half my roster was on a bye week. So fortunately, I'm like done with bye weeks, but like I pulled the old GM strings and I got together a ragtag team. And if they hit just their like what they were kind of expected to do, I had a chance. None of them showed up, Justin. Not a single one of them showed. Maybe even the biggest blowout defeat I've ever suffered in fantasy football history.
Look, that's a big part. That's a big part of drafting. When you're drafting your players, you got to keep an eye on the bye weeks you're drafting for each of them, because you don't want to get yourself in that situation to get a week where you're, like you said, you're putting together like replacement players.
Yeah, it was a very rough week for me. Everyone in the chat, thank you so much for joining us. Make sure to like, comment, share, subscribe. We've got some big, breaking, crazy news to talk about, and that is the backstage news on CM Punk being at Impact Wrestling. Nick Hausman's House of Wrestling is reporting that Punk was backstage for the Impact Wrestling on AXS TV tapings in Chicago, though not for the Bound for Glory pay-per-view event. According to the report, Punk arrived just before the tapings began and was quickly taken to the locker room area. Justin, I say this is big news because everything involving CM Punk seems to be big news in the pro wrestling world, but you look at Impact going back to TNA as their branding, CM Punk backstage. It's got everyone talking. Could we see the voice of the voiceless on TNA TV?
Well, the fact that they are going back to the old brand name, which seems to be met with largely positive response that I can tell, what a way to usher in that, going back to this new era, new chapter, as if you had a huge signing like a CM Punk. Now, I don't know what Punk. I'd have to assume Punk would be the highest paid talent they would have. I don't know what TNA's financial situation is, if they can. They could probably afford it, but will they get a return on investment? Are they in enough places to where they're going to get a return? All that stuff I don't know. It would be a fresh working environment for him. From what I've heard, he does get along at this point with a lot of people there. So again, it would be interesting. And I also don't think, just because we have Survivor Series in Chicago and then Rumble's around the corner after that, so many fans have booked it in their minds at Punk's to WWE, and maybe one day, if nothing else, to go onto the Hall of Fame stage. But I'm just not convinced with how well everything is going for WWE in so many categories. I just don't see them taking the risk of dealing with Punk. If this were 4 years ago, if this was like 2018 or 2019, just before the pandemic, maybe they would, because they were in need of something. They did not have the depth that they have now. As they're getting ready to talk about, they don't even have to bring in all the big names to Saudi Arabia anymore. I mean, I don't see them doing it now. So for all those reasons, if Impact can sign the check and they feel like they're going to get a return, I think it's something really worthwhile to consider as a fan.
Jimmy, now, one of the things we're not going to talk about today is Will Ospreay and how he's been sort of, I guess, courting everybody, which as he should. He's going to be a free agent soon. I saw a question on Twitter. I wish I kept the name so I could credit the person, but is CM Punk and Will Ospreay, let's say they both sign to TNA, is that enough to get you to tune in every Thursday to watch their show?
I don't know if I would say I would tune in every Thursday, but I would definitely tune into the first one to see how things get started. Let's put it that way. But like Justin said, it's again a risk. It's a gamble signing CM Punk, because he does have that reputation that comes along with him, but he's also a smart guy because he knows that showing up there is going to get leaked out there, regardless of the fact that he tried to sneak into the building. They ushered him into the locker room. Regardless of what the story was, the story was going to get out there and get people talking. So maybe this was just a feeling out process on the part of Impact / TNA moving forward and seeing if they can, like you said, get a return on their investment. But the big question is, will it be a short-term return on their investment, or is it going to be a long-term thing? Because like I said, sometimes, that aura comes with them, and you don't want the locker room chemistry disturbed in any form or fashion. And sometimes someone with the reputation of a CM Punk could upset the apple cart, so to speak.
Yeah, it's I think that for CM Punk, this could be a great opportunity in the sense that you go to Impact, you show how great you are, you get some more viewers over there. It's great for Impact. And then if it is like a 1-year deal and you play nice and you show your value, maybe that does open the door back up to a WWE that goes, hey, you know what? Maybe we should give this guy another look. I mean, I don't know all the moving pieces, but outsider looking in, that's how it looks to me, like as an opportunity there. But yeah, I don't know the financials, but Justin, to what you alluded to, I don't imagine them, because even if they like tripled their numbers, I don't know if it would be worth whatever CM Punk is charging unless CM Punk is cutting them a deal of some kind.
Well, and I also think you have to just look at what is your distribution. Like they're on Access TV, and I like if I wanted to watch it, like my way of consuming anything with Impact in the last few years has been to seek out things on social or on YouTube. I don't know if they all of a sudden said CM Punk's going to be on the next episode. Like I don't even know if I have the ability. I cut the cord earlier this year. I don't even know how to access to watch the show live. I don't ever watch it. So like I mean that's probably, and I can't be the only one. So I think that's the first thing is like, do you have the distribution to even set yourself up for success to get the return on whatever expense he's going to be?
Yeah, it's yeah, I don't even know if I have access to it. I have Sling, but I guess I've never even looked.
That's that was a very fair point. Sorry to cut you off there, Jack. Because
go ahead.
Not to get off topic here, but you look at the new deal that Billy Corgan has signed with CW Network. That feels like a bigger platform than what Impact Wrestling / TNA has right now with Access TV. So that's the issue. That's a big issue. Let's put it that way, is the accessibility to watch. Yes, there are ways people could stream it, but at the same time, what kind of return are you getting?
Right.
Yeah. To put it in perspective, I think CW is like the 19th biggest in the US, and then like TBS, which is what Dynamite's on here in the US, is like 16th. So they're not too far removed in terms of reach.
Yeah, CW is a legit network. Like that's a huge deal for NWA, by the way. If that's happening, so we'll have to see. But it will be interesting. I'll confess, I got a little bit of CM Punk fatigue from all the news. But at the same time, I love it when people are talking wrestling, and CM Punk is really one of the greatest all time when it gets to people talking about what he's doing in pro wrestling, as we can see from all the news articles and things. So. And also TNA does good stuff. I'd like to see them get a bigger audience and get a bigger platform and get bigger shows and do well. There are a lot of great wrestlers over there. Someone who's not going to be backstage at Crown Jewel is Brock Lesnar. PW Insider Elite is reporting that Lesnar has not been factored into creative plans for Crown Jewel and won't be appearing at the event. It's going to be the first time WWE has run a show in Saudi Arabia without Brock Lesnar. The report cites sources within WWE who supposedly believe it would be better to save Lesnar for a future Saudi event, as the upcoming show is an immediate sellout. The card doesn't lack star power without Lesnar either, since they have Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, Rhea Ripley, LA Knight, and Logan Paul already on the event. Justin, of course, not even counting the people those people are facing, like Rey Mysterio and whatnot. To your point about CM Punk to WWE, this is kind of proof positive. They're even saying to Brock Lesnar, look, man, we don't need you right now.
Yeah, this is great. I mean, Michael Cole talked about it on commentary tonight, how, they sold out in like 2 hours. in Riyadh, and then and supposedly the production is trying to work on a way to realign things to open up more sections, which is what they just did several times over for Chicago for Survivor Series a few weeks later. So I mean, yeah, that goes to what I said earlier. The depth they have now, and you rattled off those names, Jack. And aside from like Roman Reigns, like you have guys and girls like LA Knight, Rhea Ripley, who have been with the company for several years, but now they have been positioned and built to a point where they are a legit draw to where they're certainly helping contribute to these numbers. And so again, you don't need to call upon the part-timers like Brock and bring them in for what's going to be, a one-off match that really has no story, a few there's no real story behind it. You can save them for later on for different times. So this right here, it speaks to, do you really need to go out and take the gamble of both financially and morale of bringing in somebody who is very opinionated and likes to do things his way? So
yeah, Jimmy, very rarely, this is the first time I can remember WWE being able to say, you know what, we don't need Brock Lesnar for this really big show. I always say WWE is at a point where they've got like an embarrassment of riches when it comes to talent. I mean, they have so many people who are at such a high level. It's really incredible. And again, when WWE says we don't need you, Brock, that says something.
It absolutely speaks volumes because, like you said, arguably this is the most stacked roster they have had since the Attitude Era, if not more stacked. You know what I mean? There is an argument to be made there. And for them to say that we don't need Brock Lesnar for this, the show sold out. This is going to be a big show anyway. So, save him from when you can actually involve him in a storyline. He just finished up with Cody not too long ago and actually put him over and, did the respect thing afterwards. Let's build towards what Brock wants to do next instead of just saying, hey, let's put a big name on this big show. You don't need to just do it. Put a reason behind it, and get people invest into why. But you don't need to because there's so many people on this show already that have people invested.
Yeah, that are really going to hit every point. I mean, you got the good wrestlers, you got the star power, you got the mic people. Like they've just got so many people. I always say, when you can have someone like Roman Reigns, your biggest star, only show up every now and again, that just shows how stacked your roster is. Really, just really, really incredible right now.
And the numbers they're drawing prove that point. Not just overseas in Saudi Arabia or wherever it may be, but all across the board, it seems to be, drawing so well.
Yeah. So, WWE is definitely cooking right now. Michael Martinez with a super chat says, glad to see Cassie Lee back in wrestling. They split Iconics prematurely. Could she make a guest appearance on AEW with Spears? I would assume that's always possible. We'll have to see. But Justin, what do you think the odds are of Cassie Lee signing a contract with AEW?
Well, I mean, AEW signs a lot of people so it's positive. Of course, it's very possible. I was a big fan of the Iconics as well in WWE. I thought I used the comparison again. No, they never even came close to accomplishing the same as this duo. I'll compare the two, but they had the same kind of chemistry, and that is Edge and Christian. They had that goofy sophomoric humor, but it was even kind of a fresh take on it because it was two ladies doing it, and so I thought that they were a great on-screen attraction.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the women's tag team division, and I think it's hard to argue that having another female tag team wouldn't be a good thing right now for WWE.
Yeah,
right.
But
you look at AEW too, the women's division there, they do have some great talent, but underutilized is a term I would use right now. They can certainly, center one of their shows around the women talent. They've got that many good women down there. It's just, I think, like I said, underutilized. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I think that's definitely the issue with AEW. They already have a roster. I mean, don't get me wrong though. I'd love for Cassie Lee to get paid, so hopefully she gets a paycheck. Hopefully she gets signed somewhere because I think the Iconics were talented. I hope they both get big checks. But let's move on to the show. Let's move on to Raw. But as always, before we do, like, comment, share, subscribe, share the link in social media. Bring your friends over. 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts as well. Always appreciated. And if you're a lurker, shout out to the lurkers like Joe C. I saw earlier in the chat. Also, Max Feldman, Baby Ice, Jeroy J, Montez, Ethan, Dylan Matthews, the GIF King, Bernie DC. We got Christopher and Tommy O and everyone else. Appreciate you guys so much. Let's talk about some WWE Raw. We start the show with Damian and Finn having fun, and Cody Rhodes comes out and interrupts them. He says Rhea is the leader of the Judgment Day and that Priest didn't finish him off with a low blow. Priest talks about how the bloodline and Cody's story is still going on, and Priest challenges Cody to a match at Crown Jewel, and Cody accepts. Rhea and Dom come out, but before they can get there, Jey Uso cuts him off. Then JD McDonough comes out, and the bad guys get the upper hand before security can get out there. Also, Damian Priest crushes Cody's leg.
Mm-hmm.
Jimmy, there was a lot of lines I liked. There was a lot of story I liked here, but I got to confess, starting to feel like I've seen this before.
No, I get that, but at the same time, there's some little differences that make it, still interesting for me to watch. Like planting that seed that Cody basically said that Rhea is the leader of the Judgment Day. We were waiting for that big one to drop, and now that puts another thought into Finn Balor's head. You know what I mean? So now there's another seed planted. Like we always talk about planting seeds and then watering them. That was a major planting of a seed and some watering with it. And I like the idea of, your story, you're talking about your story being told. I don't even know what your story is. And, that's another layer to the story being told.
Right.
And then, having Cody have to fight over this ankle injury that he has now and fight through it. And as we'll talk about later in the show, selling it the way he did, it makes the match going into Crown Jewel kind of a little more interesting for me, only to see how they get through this. And, do they have an out for Cody not to come out of this victorious? You know what I mean? And continue that story that he needs to tell.
Right. And Justin, that's kind of where I feel like I've seen this before is when we saw Cody against Finn, it felt like what are they going to do to make Finn feel like a threat? I sort of feel like Damian Priest, he's got the Money in the Bank briefcase. He's great, but he's also very beatable to a Cody Rhodes, who is very unbeatable. And so I don't know. I guess I'm not as jazzed about this as I think I should be. Am I crazy?
Well, I think you started. I don't think you're crazy. I think you started with it. There's some of this doesn't feel as original as you'd hope. First of all, I like the ankle injury to Cody thing. I'm always all for getting a babyface a worked injury to have to help fight back from. So I like that decision. This whole tonight, it's so hard to pinpoint. Tonight, I love the amount of interaction that everybody's crossing with here, and like Cody's trying to shove at these guys. Oh, we all know Rhea's, mommy's the real leader, and then we got Rhea wheeling and dealing, and she's trying to play Drew. She's trying to play like I love all the mind games that everybody's trying to outsmart. So like on that regard, like tonight's Raw was very cool because like that we're doing this, and that is adding a new layer to what otherwise is a lot of the same individuals. We've seen Cody battling with Judgment. We've seen Sami Zayn. Like I feel like we've seen it all. But then at the same point, still, when I look back at this 3 hours was long tonight. This was not this was one of the shows where it just they could not disguise or hide or make you forget that Raw's 3 hours. It's too long. We've already discussed that before, but they just couldn't. I don't know. Something about tonight. There just was a pacing that was just like, oh. I looked at the clock. I'm like, really? We're only here. So I don't know. So I'm hoping that this big show in Riyadh in a week, and then I'm hoping after that you got Survivor Series, which is tailor made for the situation we have right now in WWE on Raw and SmackDown with all of these individuals either aligned or in earnest or pretending to be aligned. I'm hoping that that's what this all is going to build to, is that big explosion, because and then after that we need to blow some stuff up and go to Rumble and freshen everything up. I don't want to see Cody fighting Judgment Day anymore, or blah 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 blah.
Yeah, I agree. I do like the intertwined stuff, and I like all the people involved. I just definitely felt like McDonough trying to get in the Judgment Day. Like, okay, Cody Rhodes versus the Judgment Day. Jey Uso's there. These guys go against each other every week, but a lot more happened. We'll talk about that as we move on. For now, I want to talk about the Akira Academy versus the New Day. We got the worm. We got a reverse worm. We got some new offense from the New Day, and they even get the win. Jimmy, something I loved about this happened at the very end, really, and it was Wade Barrett saying that the New Day continue to climb the rankings. And I love when, I know that they don't have the actual rankings posted anywhere, but I love when they reiterate that, like, yeah, you got to win matches, put yourself in a position to qualify for a tag team title match. I thought that was cool that they're kind of reminding us, oh yeah, the New Day is climbing the rankings and earning a shot at the tag titles.
Yeah, I like that. I like that too, especially considering that a lot of people assume the New Day is in a position now where they should be able to get a title shot anytime they demand it. But because of their longevity and how long they've been there. But at the same time, like you said, you don't deserve title shots. You earn title shots. And that's what's going on here. And as far as the match itself, I thought it was a fun match. It was one of those matches where I don't know. I felt like either team could have won. There were situations tonight where there were matches where you didn't feel like a certain participant had an opportunity of winning. This wasn't one of them. They made me believe with a lot of the false finishes in that match that either team could have won that match. And that's especially when both teams are pretty much baby faces. The crowd started off like, who do we cheer for? Who do we cheer for? And then they got into the false finishes. They got into the match as the match progressed, which is a tough deal to do when you've got either two heels or two baby faces in the ring.
Yeah, the New Day, I love that they're continuing to do new moves, do new things, and even new ring gear and stuff like that. But Justin, the story that I thought really came out of this was Alpha Academy continues to slide. It felt like they were so hot for a while, and now I can't remember their last win.
Yeah, when they had Gable come up short, a few times to Gunther, I had a bad feeling that was going to be like the peak. That from that point that we are going to start to go back down. I mean, they've added a comedy layer to your approval of Tozawa, and they're still entertaining. But I do agree, it feels like they are slowly moving back down the card.
Yeah, and it's a team that I don't know. I feel like I want them to be a little bit more dangerous. I want them to be able to win matches. And right now they're getting back into that place where they used to be, where it's like, okay, they're not going to win this match. But they're still doing stuff, though, which is always a good sign.
Right. And I think that you don't want them to fall into that trap where they go, you know what, these guys are fun and entertaining, so they don't need to win. I hope they don't fall into that trap. And that's what it seems to have happened here. They're just, well, you know what? Like you said, the addition of Akira Tozawa to the group now has added a different layer to it and made people go, oh, this is a lot of fun. But at the same time, eventually, like, we always say you can get over without going over, but eventually there are times when you need to go over as well.
Well, and the reality is, I mean, again, they do great. They're very entertaining, and you can put them in a lot of backstage stuff and this and that. And I'm sure, I haven't been to a non-televised house show anytime in recent time, but I'm sure they're very over in that setting where it's very fan friendly, very close up to the fan, so I'm sure that there's a lot of things that are going that they're doing which is why that they're in this situation still. But I think eventually, especially as you go into 2024, Triple H in the office, they got to look and say, all right, let's find something else for Tozawa and Otis and for Maxine to do. We got to shed Gable of this. Gable does not need, like, he could still be entertaining and funny, but I think, a brand switch up or something just to get him on his own, that will be where you could truly try again and build him up in the mid card for a mid card title, because I think he has it. I mean, yeah, he's a little bit smaller size, but I think his personality is so big and his strength is so great. I think it all overshadows his actual statistics of how tall or not tall he is.
I agree completely with that. We move on, and we got a video package for Ivar, and a video that would normally feel like it was just gassing up a wrestler. But this one felt a little different, Justin, because Valhalla sounded like she was almost saying, what it feels like the WWE would say about Ivar. Things like, you are a warrior who has proven yourself and you have done things to gain the attention of the guy. I can't remember what they said, but you know what I mean. They were saying all this stuff. Are we moving, Justin? Do we need to move the Ivar singles run alert from orange to red?
What do you mean, orange to red?
Like,
Bad?
is it? No, it was like it was probably going to happen. Now we're putting it on red alert. Like it's happening.
Well, if I'm not going to go as far as say push that he's going to be like, again, getting a title, but I do think that the several weeks of singles matches that he had, I think something was proven. I think that, again, we've talked about it a lot of times when a tag team and gets hurt in WWE, when one of them at least, then the other one just sits at home or sits in catering. But the fact that they said, all right, well, let's just let them go out there and do a singles match, his first one on TV in years in WWE, and they were as received as well as they were. I think they're looking at it like, all right, well, we're sitting here trying to build depth and we're building, talent for tomorrow, so we don't have to rely on talent of yesteryear. This guy Ivar, he's got a look, he's got a character. People got into his match. Like, let's run with it. Let's see what happens. So yeah, I think that we're definitely going to start seeing him regularly on TV, whether it's a match or whether it's a vignette like this.
Yeah, Jimmy, Ivar, I've become a big fan of his. I was a fan of his in the Viking Raiders too, but like his singles run has been great. I think he's got that look. The whole Viking look looks great. What are your thoughts on like the idea of an Ivar singles run? And I don't know. I want to talk about his name a little bit because it says Ivar on the bottom.
Right.
I feel like I know they love single names, but I feel like it needs like if he's a Viking, like Ivar the Great or Ivar the Warrior, you know what I mean? Like some like thing with it. Ivar feels too short in this case.
I think that's another thing you build towards. Eventually down the road, he could come out and say Ivar the Terrible or Ivar,
Terrible, probably better than great. If you're a Viking.
You know what I mean? If you're a Viking, at least,
Yeah.
anyways. But you're right. He has proven himself in singles competition over the last couple of weeks and going out there. So the WWE recognized this and did that vignette, which they do very well. They do those video packages so well. And it looked awesome. And they made him look like a true single star. And he showed that he can be a true single star. Now it's time for him to, further this going forward. Now you got to find the right opponent for him for his first real rivalry. Let's put it that way. And that's the question now. Who can be that first real test for him? And if they'd have built up someone like a Chad Gable, like Justin said, that would have been a perfect singles run he could have with someone, at least for the short term.
It's funny because Ivar is one of these guys who a lot of times I'll think to myself, so is he an actual Viking that doesn't have a cell phone, or does he just play this character? But then I see this video and I'm like so into it. I'm like, yeah, he's a Viking. This is incredible. I love it. And it's funny how sometimes you see things in different contexts and it changes your entire view of it, if that makes sense. I don't know if that happened to you guys, but yeah, a lot of times like, so did he drive here in a car or did he ride a horse? But then I watched the video and I'm like, where's my shield? I want to hit it along with all the people around the fire.
He was in the chariot behind the horse. Yeah.
I think, well, and one of the things like in this video might be the start of it. Maybe this is the first of a series of videos. I think, Jack, I know what you mean. I think you need to kind of you need to get to a more realistic place of saying, obviously he doesn't, he lives in the world in 2023, but he's a Viking sympathizer. Everything he does is from the values of what he's learned and read about of Vikings in the past. And the funny thing is, I don't know so much about him, the man who plays Ivar, but I do know that the guy who plays his partner, Eric, who's injured, and then the lady who plays Valhalla, she's married to Eric. They both in real life are very much into the Viking kind of life and like Renaissance festival, and like it's kind of the same situation. They live in America in 2023, but they very much have that lifestyle and elements of it and dress of it as a major part of interest in their life. So it's almost like if you can kind of get the video and storytelling to kind of get more on that, that's very believable. Mm-hmm. That then all of a sudden you're like, okay, here, it's like, it's kind of like how Aleister Black was, or Malachi Black, or whatever, wherever you want to look at him, like the origins of his character were because like his father was involved in a cult and he's always read books and always been fascinated by. So it's like if you can get somebody, if you can kind of get that real life element to it, it makes all of a sudden becomes much easier to digest.
Absolutely. We go on to what I thought was really one of my favorite segments of the night was Seth Rollins and Rhea Ripley. Rhea Ripley offers the Judgment Day services to Rollins, but Rollins says he thinks she's doing that because she's lost faith in Damian Priest. Rhea says Seth is just a world champion and not the world champion. And with Judgment Day, maybe Rollins could become that guy. Rollins says he doesn't want to be anything like Roman Reigns, and Rhea says that wasn't a no. Jimmy, this was, for everything I've said, this is where I become hypocritical. Well, Jack said at the beginning he's tired. Mm-hmm. I thought the way they delivered this, I thought the lines, I thought the way they delivered the lines, I thought the storytelling, where it leads, this was picture perfect, in my opinion. What say you?
I don't know if I would say picture perfect, but it was enticing for me to want to see this progress forward. Again, and that's the whole goal here. Like you said, the language that they used, the verbiage was very interesting. Her trying to get Seth Rollins to either join or collaborate with the Judgment Day was very interesting. You know, bringing up the last week being seen with talking to Drew McIntyre again. There are more seeds being planted, and you love those seeds being planted in the right way, in the right part of the garden. Let's put it that way, for lack of a better term, and being watered properly. And that's what they did. They watered the seeds nicely in this, and made you go, this is very interesting. Where is this going to lead to now?
Justin, there's obviously fallout from this that happens later on in the show after a match. But what did you think of this part of the show? I liked it because it did get me thinking about how Judgment Day could be involved. And it made me think deeper than just they're bad guys who want to beat people up.
Yeah, this exchange was probably the most entertaining of the entire night. This few minutes was, this was the best part of the movie this week. That I love Departed and Goodfellas, like Casino, and I love all those Scorsese films. Right. And like this was the closest thing to that feeling of like, ooh, they're walking me down a path now in my mind, and they're making offers to each other, and they're using certain language of I want to be the champion. Like it was the most entertaining exchange of the night for sure.
Mm-hmm. Definitely will pay dividends later, I'm sure. But for now, we've got a couple of segments and a match where at first Becky Lynch says that she's taking on all challengers, Indi tonight, Lyra tomorrow, but Xia Li is looking on in the background. Indi Hartwell is getting ready for her match, and Natty comes in to say, "Go get him, Tiger." Then we get Becky Lynch and Indi Hartwell. Laya Valkyria is in the crowd. Becky gets the win. The two shake hands afterwards, and Becky gets face-to-face with Lyra. In the locker room, however, Candice LeRae is disappointed, but she doesn't have time to be disappointed because Xia Li punches her in the throat. Justin, one of the things I'm enjoying about this Becky Lynch run is that she is really giving a ton of time to people who may not be known on the main roster to get known on the main roster in a big way.
That's true. That is very true. Yeah, I mean it's paying off, this little crossover she's doing with NXT right now. And it's all, in some cases you're going to have a situation where you're going to put new eyes on a talent, and that's new eyes that are going to be on that talent's bandwagon, and that's great. That's one purpose it serves. Other purposes is sometimes, you get somebody like a Becky Lynch who's your barometer, and then she walks back to the office and says, yeah, this girl, she needs to jump the line a few spots. Like, she's ready to go. We need to start doing more with her. Or you hate to hear it, but it is the reality. She goes, not quite ready with this one yet. Like, let's circle on back. So having Becky in this position right now is very beneficial, both again for business internally and for the audience.
Yeah, it's you can't do it with like a Roman Reigns, but it is interesting. We have all these people that we say they could be a star. You put them in the ring with Roman Reigns, do they still look like a star? You get that with Becky Lynch, I think, with a lot of these up and comers. The downside of this, though, Jimmy, is it feels like when you have all these challengers lined up, it kind of shows your hand on how these matches are going to turn out. Now, I don't think Becky's going to lose the NXT title on a random Monday Night Raw anyways, but when you tell me Lyra Valkyria is the next challenger tomorrow and Xia Li is after that, then I'm thinking, well, she's not going to lose now. She's got these two other things to do.
No, I understand exactly what you're saying and I think the audience felt that way too, because they were quiet for a lot of it. And I believe, in my opinion, the reason they were quiet for a lot of this match was because they didn't believe that Indi had I hate to put it this way, had a chance of beating Becky for the championship. Mm-hmm. So if you don't have that belief, then it's hard for you to get invested in a match. And I think that was part of the problem here. And, like you said, advertising that, tomorrow night there'll be another championship match and probably saying, well, Becky has to possibly defend it tomorrow. They even said it in commentary, so it's almost like they're giving it away without giving it away.
Right. So yeah, it's that is a little bit of a bummer to me, but at the end of the day, like I said, I don't think Becky's losing the title on a random Monday Night Raw. So right. In that case, I'm just glad that Indi Hartwell is getting that kind of shine with someone who is that big of a star for that long. Because they went back and forth. They made it competitive. They let Indi Hartwell look like she was getting some shots in on the champ. So I hope it gives her a chance to take that and continue to elevate. Adam Pearce and Nick Aldis were backstage, and Pearce tells security to get ready for a contract signing, which I love. And Nick Aldis apologizes for how things went down on SmackDown. Pearce says it's cool. Hang out for the rest of the show while he does the contract signing. And Pearce tries to get Zoe, Shayna, Raquel, and Nia to sign the contract as fast as possible, but Rhea shows up before they finish and says it's a conspiracy. After she's done, there will be 4 less people in the division. Nia Jax says Rhea wants Nia to squash everyone for her. This leads to a melee, and in the end, Nia Jax squashes everybody for Rhea Ripley. Jimmy, this I thought did a great job of showing us who's going to be in that match at Crown Jewel. I got to ask you the tough question though. If Nia Jax does win, does she kind of squash the division the way this is gone?
I don't know if she squashes the division, but it makes her look like a true dominant figure in the division. That's for sure. And she did look dominant tonight as well, because, they're claiming that Shayna Baszler says she's the baddest woman on the roster and so on and so forth. But at least now people have doubts in their head. Again, going into a match saying, well, I can't see so-and-so beating Rhea Ripley in this. But when there's 5 women in the match and one is so dominant, and other women you could, technically choose and say, hey, you know what? I could see so-and-so winning or so-and-so winning or even so-and-so winning under these circumstances. You've given people an opportunity to say, hey, I'm not sure who's going to win this match. This is going to be interesting to see, and I want to see how it plays out. And the other off-topic thing I found interesting was not having a table present in the ring for this contract signing, which was a little bit different, which I thought, here's another contract signing, but at least there was a little different play into this one.
Yeah, Justin, I was going to say, what I liked about this contract signing is how much they leaned into, this is going to end bad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was racking my brain as it was going on, and I was like, I don't think I've ever seen WWE do a contract signing for a fatal 5-way. So that's good, but I liked how they did. I liked the pace they kept it to. I like the frantic pace on purpose because I'm trying to get it on paper before all hell breaks loose. Rhea got such a pop when her music finally hit. Such a pop. They start chanting her name even, and she acknowledges it. Like, part of me is like, all right, if you're going to take the title off of her at any time soon, this would be the kind of match to do it, because you could do it and totally protect her. She can be completely, not even in the frame when it happens. And I'm like, and I can only see them doing that if they felt, okay, we got to get the title off her, and we're going to lean into her as a babyface sooner rather than later, and then have whatever's going to happen, this whole Judgment Day stuff shake out. But then a larger part of me is like, no, when you have something this hot and this she's just on such a roll, you don't take the fastball away from her. So that being said, I think she finds a way to retain, and Mommy's got more bragging rights. And like, I just don't see her losing this until we're at a stage like a Mania somewhere, and it's going to have to be somebody against her. It's going to have to be an opponent that's really going to make you go, You know, whether that's a positioned Becky Lynch, whether that's an emerging new star like a Jade Cargill, I don't know, but I just feel like Rhea is arguably one of the hottest things they have right now, and I just even only having a 20% chance of the match, I'm like, I just can't see her losing this. I really can't.
Yeah, I think there might be some people that say she doesn't, quote, need the title, but I think when you have someone that's that hot, you keep them as hot as possible. And
that way, whoever happens to be the one to finally defeat her for the title, it means that much more.
Yes. Yeah. So I have a feeling she's going to hold on to it, but we move on, and Kaiser's getting Vinci ready for his big match. And then Bronson Reed comes through and is pretty complimentary of Imperium, but they seem to take offense to it. Then we get Akira Tozawa, and we'll talk about those two in a little bit, Justin LaBar. So for now, we're going to go to Gargano versus Vinci. Kaiser's happy, then Gargano gets cooking, and Kaiser is sad and about to get involved when Ciampa returns and beats up Kaiser, allowing Gargano to get the win. Justin, for those keeping track at home, Kaiser beat Gargano but wasn't able to put him on a stretcher. Vinci not able to beat Gargano. Things are looking bad for Vinci.
Yeah, I like the drama that's going on there with Imperium between those two. So this was the right call. This was the right, and Gargano needs some wins. So it's an easy way to get Gargano a win. He's back. He needs some wins. He needs some momentum. He needs wins. He needs momentum. Crowd not making much noise when he comes out. Got a little smattering of some cheers when he did beat, Vinci. But and oh, by the way, I don't know why. There's been different versions of Gargano's music he's had over the years in WWE and NXT. I don't know. This version sucks that he's using. There is no boom, stand up and get out of your seat and start cheering. It is just
bad.
It's just a weird emo vibe. Just stop.
It's really bad. I don't new music, go back to old music. I don't know. I agree with you, Justin. That music does not do him any favors at all.
And we've seen lately how much entrance music means to, get that initial pop from the crowd. It's almost like they went, when the music hit. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if Stone Cold came out to this new Johnny Gargano theme, I don't think people would pop quite the same way. Though it would be hilarious to see Stone Cold walking out to the Johnny Gargano theme. But Jimmy, now one of the things I thought that was really interesting about this is Gunther said that Kaiser would have hell to pay if Vinci didn't get the job done. So now Ludwig Kaiser may need some Kaiser Permanente soon. Now, for those who don't know, that's a health insurance company here in the States. And Jimmy, since you're in Canada, a health insurance company is someone.
The health insurance company in Canada is the government. But anyway.
So we might see Gunther unhappy soon.
Yeah, I think Gunther is going to be very unhappy, especially next Monday, maybe leading into Crown Jewel. Maybe he's setting something up for his Imperium stablemates, some challenge they might have to face. I don't know. It seems that all factions now have some infighting, and I wish that not all of them had an issue.
Yeah, I agree with that. I was going to say Imperium doesn't feel like the kind of group that needs infighting. I mean, I get the drama of Gunther being like, you guys got to start winning matches, but like, I don't know. I don't know. It feels like it doesn't feel like that really fits their characters. It feels like they're too militant. Like, yeah, you get the job done, and if you don't, then we adjust. You know what I mean? I don't know. I'm not really feeling it. Justin, are you feeling the Imperium dissension?
Well, the one thing I'll say about it, I mean, I agree that militant's a good word, but I will say that otherwise, I'm glad that they're not just the two lackeys that just take all the frontline bullets for Gunther. I like that Kaiser's developed this personality, this way of speaking. He's very, identifiable. Vinci's kind of the one that's kind of he's the weak link right now. So it's like I don't know. So, I mean, I guess in a way this is good because it's giving Vinci TV time, it's giving him airtime. But in another way, it's bad because the entire point of this airtime is just casting him as the weak link out of this. So I don't know. I guess I'll wait and see where it goes. But it's nice that Gunther doesn't have to even be on tonight, and Imperium story is advancing.
I feel sort of like maybe I'm reading too far into it, but Vinci should be the one that's getting the wins because Justin, your point, he's not the charismatic guy talking all the time. And Ludwig should be the one that is falling short, but he seems to find a way to talk himself out of it or blame Vinci or do something like that, even though Vinci's the one winning. But if Vinci's not talking or winning, then it starts to make him feel a little bit like, well, what are you doing here?
Like, it starts to make me worry that the clock is ticking on him.
Right.
Which is unfortunate. But Nakamura says he wants someone that will push him so that he can get the as yet unseen part of himself released in his dreams. Justin, have you ever wanted someone to push you to show the unseen part of yourself that is trapped in your dreams?
Every Sunday after a Washington loss. I mean, it's yeah. I mean, but overall, I mean, Nakamura, again, they hit it. Yeah, Jimmy said earlier about when we talk about Ivar, but they do it again here with Nakamura. They just hit it with these videos. You know, he looks like he could be like the lead bad guy in the next, action buddy cop movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love these videos. Jimmy, who do you think is going to be the next person for Shinsuke?
You know what? Since watching that video, and just for really quickly, at first I wasn't sure about the CC, the closed captioning underneath, but I'm really getting to like this. It's a nice different vibe from Shinsuke. But since that video showed, I've been thinking, who could be the next guy? Who could be the next guy? Who could be the next guy? And nothing is standing out right now. You know, we talked about Chad Gable earlier. Is this a place where he could be utilized to help elevate? Because we talked about him, Justin especially mentioned him as a single star, and he has that potential because I see a little bit of Kurt Angle in this guy. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. He has that ability in the ring, but also has that entertainment value as well. He can do it all. And I wonder if that's a good pairing, if he would pair well with Shinsuke, and that would be the next little rivalry to go on.
They have some barn burners too, so I'd like to see that. We get Logan Paul after this, who says that he beat his last opponent in boxing so bad the promotion dropped him, and now he's going to beat Rey Mysterio for the U.S. title. Dom comes out, and they talk about how great they are and how bad Rey is. Then they have Samantha Irvin come into the ring and taunt her a bit before Ricochet comes out and attacks both fellas before they bail. Jimmy, it's like they took the two guys who people hate the most and said, let's put them both in the ring at the same time here. Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts on this segment, and particularly how it looks like they're setting up Ricochet for a bounce back rivalry with Dom?
Yeah, either Dom or even have him against Logan Paul or whatever the case may be. It's showing the heat, at least, that these guys are getting. The only question I have was, were they killing the microphone on Dom, to enhance that because he does get that natural, crowd booing, but it felt like they were killing his mic. So you heard the boos over his voice.
I thought the same thing, because I was like, I cannot hear anything he's saying. Right.
And I get why you do it, because you want to make it sound like the crowd is shadowing his voice. But at the same time, I don't think you needed to kill his mic to hear it.
Yeah, I've heard at NXT, I heard just how loud the crowd gets for Dom, but tonight it felt like there were some audio shenanigans going on with that situation.
I thought it doesn't need to be done to that extreme. Let's put it that way. It felt like it was like you said, audio manipulation.
Justin, I think with Dom, I think they saw that Logan was getting such a reaction. They were worried that the Dom reaction wouldn't keep up. Maybe, I don't know, but it felt like some stuff was going on there. But I feel like this was a great segment that did a lot of good business for them, bringing Ricochet in, making us hate Dom more, and selling us more on Logan versus Rey. I feel like they checked every box.
Yeah, no, a lot of business was accomplished, and I don't put it past Logan Paul winning that title from Rey. I think he's so polarizing, and he's got such a following and everything he does that I don't know. And obviously he's and then once he has it, there'll be a time and place where he's going to put somebody else over. But he's proven that he can do whatever they ask him to do from a physical standpoint in a match. So I don't know. This is kind of intriguing. that dynamic of seeing Dom and him in the ring together and everything. Yeah, this was all interesting stuff. But I agree with both of you. It sounded like they were trying too hard with the audio stuff, but it's like just let it be. Just let the booze come through naturally.
Yeah. We got Chelsea Green and Piper Niven against Natty and a mystery opponent because apparently Tegan Knox was injured, which is unfortunate to hear. Nikki Cross shows up and just stares into space until eventually Cross wanders off, and left alone, Chelsea Green and Piper Niven get the win. Justin, I hear you reacting. Again, I hope this Tegan Knox thing is a story beat and not anything serious.
Well, I thought the same thing too, but then you just think about it a little bit longer, and it's like, well, what's the benefit? Like she just legit battled so many injuries in the last like 5 years that they were finally hoping to get like some kind of like consistency, and all this does right now is immediately just so like I don't think so. Hopefully it's just like an injury, like, hey, just take 2 or 3 weeks off of it to let it rest. Hopefully it's not anything like beyond anything, but just the fact that she has already tweaked something, so it would seem that the fact she's already dealing with something, that's just not a good sign. When she's had surgery, I think, on both knees. Scary stuff.
Jimmy, any thoughts on what's going on with Nikki Cross? Is this just a new Nikki Cross, or is there something that is making her act this way, you think?
I guess we're going to find out. I don't know what's making her act this way, but it is a different Nikki Cross, and that's the whole idea. Everybody says, where is that energy, that the Nikki Cross energy? There was none. It was, like you said, very stoic, very coming out, gazing out into space, especially standing on the apron, just standing there and motionless, emotionless, and just down the stairs and walking away and that sort of thing. It felt like this match was put together just to get that over more than anything else, to show that there is a different Nikki Cross here, and where is this going to lead? That's going to be the interesting part. And I've said it so many times tonight, I want to see where this goes next.
Yes. Yeah. Well, hopefully we get some more answers soon. Small segment here. Just quick thoughts. Miz is upset with Pierce, saying that he's a star and he's not getting the time. And then he gets interrupted by Rhea, who signs the contract and steals Pierce's pin before comforting Dirty Dom. Jimmy, I don't think there's anything much to this, but it was interesting. It's fun.
Yeah, it was fun. And again, we got to see what kind of a promo Miz just, he's just, again, underrated in a lot of people, in my eyes, anyways, from a lot of people. He doesn't get enough credit for how good he actually became. And from someone who was there from the beginning of his career, seeing, what he had to overcome to get to where he is today, the guy is awesome.
Justin, any odds that this turns into Miz feeling underappreciated and trying to do crazy stuff to get on TV?
Could be that, or they kind of hinted at it when they mentioned Nick Aldis in it. It could be setting up for a Miz brand change. He goes to SmackDown, and again they move somebody back over to Raw. So, and I love the little touch of Rhea just keeping the pin. I don't know why it just popped me.
For some reason, I was like, that's like the most heel thing she's ever done. And for some reason, I was like, hey, you took his pin.
Just, I'm keeping the pin. She walks off, stuffs it in her shirt, and.
But you mentioned Aldis. Later, Aldis is chatting up Caden and Katana, and Pierce isn't happy about it, so Aldis takes off, and Cross wanders by. Justin, you alluded to the Aldis stuff. Kind of feels like we're getting ready for Survivor Series. Do you think they'll go back to brand versus brand, or do you think they're going to keep it as it's been the past year?
Well, I would hope that that's not the entire theme of the night, but I do think you have now 2 GMs, and I think you could have a match. You could have a match at Survivor Series where it's like, all right, you put up your 4 or 5, but there's so much else going on. I mean, we've talked about it all night here. I mean, between all the different factions and alliances, and is Judgment Day trying to recruit this person? I mean, there's just so much to be done. Naturally, in the storyline, you don't need to stop everything and just have it be red versus blue. Just not needed. But yeah, I could see a match, or maybe not even. Maybe it's not even a full on. So I mean, maybe it's a 3-on-3, or I don't know. But I could see something. Yeah, just to let them keep nitpicking at each other, Aldis and Pierce.
Well, maybe Jimmy. Maybe they do a War Games for the big serious, Bloodline versus the Cody Rhodes team or whatever. And maybe they do the standard Survivor Series for the red versus blue.
Yeah. There's so many options here. And I like where this is leading, because who knows, maybe down the road, can they build this up slowly? Like you said, a Survivor Series. I like Justin's idea of having only one match that involves brand versus brand. And keeping that simple. But can it develop down the road? We're coming up on WrestleMania 40, where we have a match. It's probably going to be 2 nights again, right? So on one of the nights where you have the GMs come out of retirement, lace them up, and they go at it, which would get people talking, and that would be an interesting matchup, that's for sure.
The best thing they could do, if they're going to do any type of brand versus brand thing, again, hopefully just a match, the best thing they could do is make it mean something. Let the brand that loses, somebody from that brand is going to draw number 1 in the Rumble, or just try to come up with something to make it matter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. And just Jimmy, I like your idea of the GMs fighting it out, because both those guys, people may not know, they're both very talented wrestlers, former NWA champions, both of them. Right. So I don't know if they can still wrestle. I don't know if there's a reason they're not choosing not to wrestle at this point, but both of them talented fellas. Jey Uso's backstage, and Drew McIntyre rubs it in Jay's face that the Bloodline cost him his title, and then says that whatever happens to Sami tonight is on Jey Uso. We get to the match, and the crowd is split, and the story is Drew is beating up Sami, and Sami is trying to prove he belongs in the ring with someone like a Drew McIntyre. Mid-match, Rhea comes out and distracts Drew, allowing Sami to get up and get ready for the haluva kick, but then she distracts Sami and allows Drew to get the win. Later, Seth and Drew both say they don't need Judgment Day at Crown Jewel. Justin, I love this tease of Drew and Seth both saying they don't need Judgment Day, because I got a feeling one of them is going to use Judgment Day.
Yeah, it's I do too. This is a real old reference, but it's it makes me think about like SummerSlam '92, when you had it was a Macho Man versus Warrior, and Ric Flair, Mr. Perfect were kind of in the middle. They kept alluding to that one of them, Macho or Warrior, one of them, has sold out, is going to, obtain their services, and Warrior, and they did all kinds of great teases leading up to it. And then Warrior and Flair are out there, and you're watching every little movement of, or you're watching Flair and Perfect out there, every little movement they're doing. Like, oh, are they starting to move towards Warrior's corner? Oh, did they just accidentally trip Macho Man? Like, I like this like little game of who, if either of them are actually going to take Judgment Day up on their offer.
Yeah, and Jimmy, this is one of those great things about pro wrestling where I'm like, well, Drew's been kind of leaning towards being a bad guy, so it's probably him. But then I go, or is that what they want me to think? And then I start going back and forth in my head, and it's perfect.
It is. That's another great point you made, because you almost have to believe that one of them is going to join, and it does. All signs are pointing to Drew being in cahoots with them right now on the down low leading into this match. But can you imagine if Seth is the one who, all of a sudden, kind of, for lack of a better term, joins forces with Judgment Day, and where does that lead to? Who's going to be in charge of Judgment Day again? Do one of them get ousted because of that? New addition, let's put it that way. There are so many directions that this can go. It's got people guessing. And again, as we've said a lot tonight, it's making me want to see where this leads.
And I should say, I really enjoyed the Sami Drew match. I love the story they told about basically Sami getting beat up, and can he hang in there with Drew? I think it's a great story they're telling, Jimmy. And you say you agree. Any thoughts on the match before we move on? I know we're getting a little long in the tooth on the show here.
No, a little bit, but like you said, this was a really good match. They told a great story throughout the match. And again, it was one of those situations with those false finishes. You believed that could have been it so many times. And you saw the crowd bite so many times. And that's a true art form of this, when you get people to go, oh, I thought that was it, and you saw the expression on the people's faces in the crowd. You could see that many times that they were like, ooh, and that's what you want.
Justin, before we move on to the next very important segment, any thoughts on the match?
No, a great match. Might have been match of the night.
Well, I'll tell you what match of the night was. I'm going to tell you guys a story about Bronson Reed and Akira Tozawa. Now, I saw social media. Everyone thinks that I took an L tonight here, Justin, but let me run it back for you real quick. Tozawa, a blistering chop to Bronson Reed before the match. 1 for Tozawa. Tozawa accompanied to the ring by Maxine Dupree. 2 for Tozawa. Hey, Bronson Reed wins the match. 1 for Bronson Reed. 2-1. Akira Tozawa, our winner tonight, everybody. And look, post-match, before everyone says I'm making things up, Akira's performance inspired the entire tag team division to become even better. They praise him. They give him a championship. Justin, Akira Tozawa did it.
Well, he still lost to a tsunami from Big Bronson Reed. But I will say, look, it's kind of like a little bit like the situation. Well, I mean, Tozawa didn't have a partner that got hurt, but much like we're talking about with Ivar, of just like taking what you're being given and run with it, and then they keep giving you a little bit more. Tozawa's been, that's kind of his situation. So in the grand scheme, it is a win for him that he goes out and can do whatever they ask of him. Comedy, go out there and get squashed by the big guy, whatever the case may be. So I'll give you a moral victory, but in the record books, it's still Big Bronson Reed.
Right.
Well, you know how much work I put into this rebuttal, Justin.
I can imagine you were sitting there drafting this up like a vigilant lawyer.
I had an old school typewriter that dings when it gets to the end. I was typing furiously, figuring it out. Jimmy, this was a fun segment. I think we all knew what the outcome was going to be. It gets Bronson Reed back on the winning track. We got a few laughs out of it. I want your opinion on this, because the fella. Is it possible that Akira Tozawa may be sliding into that old R-Truth role?
See, I didn't think of it that way, but yeah, you know what I mean? Like you said, he was very entertaining, like you both said. And this is, yes, he did get the L in this one, but at the same time, people still care about him because they want to see him, because they are entertained by him. We've talked about, I don't know how many times over how long, getting over without going over. Tozawa, yes, at some point, like I said, like we said earlier tonight, you do have to go over, but in a situation like this, he did get over because the people were so entertained by him. That selling he did, the overreaction to the selling, he was just so much fun to watch, and that's what you want.
Yes,
part of what you want. It's part of the entire package. You want good matches. You want different types of matches. You don't want all the same all through the entire show. He gave us a little something different.
I think what WWE is doing so good right now with a lot of their people is they have all these characters that you want to see win so badly, like a Sami Zayn earlier. And they're doing that thing where you're like, is this the time? Is this the time? And eventually Sami Zayn's going to be a world champion. We're all going to go nuts, and eventually Chad Gable is going to get those wins and we're all going to go nuts. And eventually Cody Rhodes is going to get that big win and we're all going to go nuts. And it's being really well done. And speaking of Cody Rhodes, we get our main event. Damian Priest versus Jey Uso. Jey hits the splash, but Balor came out and distracted the ref. This allows Priest to get the win. They're about to beat up Jey, but Cody hobbles out and is about to take out Priest's leg, but Finn pulls Cody out in time. Jimmy, you alluded to this earlier. Cody Rhodes and that ankle, if I didn't know any better, I'd say it was really hurt. I mean, you could have fooled me.
Yeah, when you talk about perfect, he sold it perfectly. The way he came down, I was surprised he wasn't in a boot or something like that, and that he was just a sock. But at the same time, it made people think, oh, wow, look at this. He's a little too good at this. Maybe he is hurt. You know what I mean? Because those who think they know, at least anyways, Cody just made it look really good. And I love the fact that Finn was there to save Priest when he was about to return the favor, let's put it that way. And going into this match at Crown Jewel now, it's going to be interesting to see how much of a factor that ankle plays into the finish of this match. We talked about earlier about Rhea having an out with Rhea not going over in that match. You have an out in this one as well for Cody getting, not getting the win. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I was thinking, we're wrestling fans like, oh yeah, he's going to pretend his ankle's hurt. But then I was like, again, thinking about overthinking it, going, I mean, he did wrestle with his pec torn off, so maybe he does. Maybe it is hurt. It wouldn't stop him. But yeah, Justin, what I loved about this last segment was it actually showed that vicious side of Cody. That he was about to do a little eye for an eye with Damian Priest.
Yeah, no, for sure. And you're right. He did fight with the torn pec. So kind of like it makes us always kind of just second guess and wonder what is the actual status. I like this ending. A lot of moving parts. This is fun. I do think that Priest needs to beat Cody at Crown Jewel. I do think that, look, Cody's he got put over with mad respect by Brock Lesnar, an unprecedented move. Cody's fine. I think he can. Between the numbers game, the bum ankle, everything, again, they're setting up enough stuff to where Cody could lose. It's good for Priest, but it's not gonna kill Cody.
Now we talked earlier about him wrestling with the torn pec throughout the match, and here he is going into this match with an ankle injury. What if that match sets up perfectly for we've seen it recently, a referee stoppage, not early. Like he absorbs so much punishment on that ankle, and where it gets to the point where he refuses, either he passes out from the pain, or the referee just says, "Look, I got to put a stop to this," or something along those lines. At least that's kind of protecting him in a sense that he didn't give up.
Yeah,
but the ankle was just too much to overcome.
I agree. I kind of agree, Justin, that. Yeah, Damian Priest winning, I think, is more interesting than Cody Rhodes winning. I get why you'd want Cody Rhodes to win something like this, but you're right. There's a lot of outs for Cody in this situation. And if Damian Priest is supposed to be a threat with that briefcase, he needs to start knocking off some big names because he has been very beatable against big people. Like him losing isn't a crazy sight, where Cody Rhodes losing is a crazy sight. And so if we want to put Damian Priest in that upper category, we need to start making him look like a guy who just doesn't lose.
Well, and again, use JD McDonough. You use all your things that you have as a resource, as you said, to start knocking off some wins. Because then again, it reminds you, like, okay, by hook or by crook, this guy could cash in and win this world title here sooner or later. He's got the people. He's got the the last big win I feel like he got was Money in the Bank, and that was June.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he's still talking about that. No, but yeah, it would be funny if they did a little backstage segment where they're like, we only hurt his ankle. The guy beat Seth Rollins in Hell in a Cell with a torn pec. Well, the ankle's not enough. We got to do more to this guy. But that does it for the show today. Everyone in the chat, let us know what you thought overall of this week's episode of Raw as we go around the horn here. Jimmy, overall thoughts on this week's episode, and where can the world find you online?
I thought it was an okay episode. It built towards Crown Jewel. It gave us some food for thought and what to anticipate, hopefully, going forward. And that's the goal, right? You want to see where is this leading to, and they did a lot of that tonight. As far as where you can catch me, obviously on Monday nights here with Triple J, having fun talking Raw and the latest news. Wednesday nights, it's myself, Justin, and Issa usually talking post AEW Dynamite. And usually on Wednesdays, it drops the Roughing It Up podcast with my good brother in stripes, Brian Hebner, and I, and RJ on our show, holding it together. Let's putting it that way. He's the glue that keeps the show together. And of course, on all my social media platforms, my Ref and Rant from Mondays to Wednesdays. It's a minute long on all my social media platforms. Again, critiquing not to tear down, but to help tighten screws that I believe need to be tightened.
And Justin, how about you? You got anything going on that you want to promote? And what were your overall thoughts of the show?
The show, like I said, there was some good stuff. There was some compelling stuff, and there's a lot of story going on and things that are moving. Like we need to get to these big shows so we can start to have the big next advances and turns in these stories. But it was still just the way that it was something with the pacing. And it was just a long show. It reminded me it was 3 hours. So it wasn't my favorite of recent shows, but I like the attempts of what they're doing. Yeah, at Justin LaBar across all the socials. Nothing really big coming up right now. Just again, Mondays here with you guys. Wednesday nights after Dynamite with Jimmy and Issa. Friday mornings, channel 156 with Sirius XM busted open. As normal, spar with LaBar, yes. As normal right now. Perhaps some things not too far off that will shake up and enhance that schedule, but we'll get to it eventually.
Always exciting stuff. I want to thank everyone who's in the chat. Adam Staples, Dylan Matthews, Bernie, Baby, Max, Montez, and everyone else. Steven, thank you guys so much for sticking with us till the end. And if you're lurking, thank you too. Remember, like, comment, share, subscribe, 5-star reviews. I agree with you, Justin. I felt like this one was a little bit long. I like the stories. I just felt like it started. I want some resolutions is where I'm getting. And I'm a little worried about next week being another episode before we get to Crown Jewel, but yeah. I'm sure they'll figure it all out one way or the other. So you can follow me at Real Jack Farmer across all social media. This week on Thursday, I will be on the call for Santino Bros Night of the Human Death Match. It's going to be on Fight TV. It's always we do that show every year, and it's always one that makes me a little squeamish because it's a death match, but it's always good fun. If you guys enjoy those kind of matches, you'll have a good time with this one. Make sure to check it out. Also, make sure to follow at Wrestling Inc. and make sure to check out the NXT After Show, which will air tomorrow after Halloween Havoc Night 1. That does it for us. We'll see you next time.